Bruce and I are colleagues going back a long way in terms of management science, coaching, organizational psychology. So we were having a conversation about the problem with talent retention, talent attrition that my clients are confronted with. I asked him a question. I said, look, how can we break the cycle? What can we do about Japa? And we started.
Several years of experience across anything you can think of across the talent management space. She has written many books, and her name is Habiba Balogun.
This book is timely. That's the first thing. And I think it really provides very useful nuggets and frameworks and models which are useful not just in the private sector, the public sector, across board.
I hope you buy some books. Why did we write this book? We need to break this cycle. How can we stop this Japa syndrome?
And then her and I worked on a training. We said, okay, let's train people. And then she comes to me and says, no, this will make a nice book.
Yeah.
Let's make it a book.
And that is how Breaking the Cycle, Talent Management in the New Normal was born. It's about strategies to address those three big syndromes: the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, and the Japa syndrome.
It's really exciting that you're all in the space where you can make the change that we all want to see.
Today's event was amazing. We had a lot of participation, a lot of passion.
It's down to our value systems, it's down to our culture, it's down to people understanding.
There are just some big macroeconomic issues that has made living in Nigeria almost unbearable.
It was really an amazing experience.
Please, can we give them a round of applause? We're launching a very special book called Breaking the Cycle, Talent Management in the New Normal, Strategies to Tackle the Great Resignation, Quiet Quitting, and Japa Syndrome. And you know, some of the words we'll be talking about today: Japa, Duro, Japa da. Those are some of the conversations we'll be engaging on today. I want to celebrate all our special guests here today. Thank you to everyone who has accepted our invitation. Thank you to our special guests and panelists, which we'll be introducing shortly. And thank you also to so many of you who are, I can see, leaders across private and public and social sectors, HR experts, even some of our young talents ourselves. I'm also happy to have members from the public sector also here present, because I think that the conversations we're having cut across, these three critical sectors. Whatever we're doing, whatever spaces we occupy, whether in financial services, education, creatives, arts, entertainment, social sector, and the like, we're all having to talk about ourselves, but also talk with our colleagues, our organizations, our boards, about, having very clear strategies to attract, retain, and sustain very critical talent. Some of us, even ourselves, are trying to ask ourselves, should we be here or should we go? Some of us have younger ones, whether children, nieces, nephews, that we've engaged with. A friend of mine the other day, a younger friend of mine, said that she's looking for new friends because all her friends have left, and that she needs new friends here. So most of her friends from primary school, secondary school, college, because she did college here and even worked here for a few years, people have all left. So it's a very urgent conversation that's not just about work. It has to do with our social cultural life as Nigerians, our immediate interactions, family, so many things. And we'll definitely delve into that. I would like to acknowledge who I feel are our very special guests, because they're the ones that brought us here today. Habiba Balogun and Prins. Can we give them a round of applause? Woo! Yes. I'll be introducing them specially later, but thank you for inviting us. Thank you for writing this book that we'll be exploring much later and talking about. I want to point out that if you look around, we're in a very beautiful space, by the way. And so if you look around the hall, from the entrance to the side, to the front here, we already have the books available and at the back. So by the time you walk, a couple of meters, you'll find a spot to a book. And I want to actually encourage you. So this is not a book launch where we'll wait until a formal, or you're already seeing the book. We're not doing a special surprise unveiling. And we actually want you to start to engage with the book already. So please do feel free to walk to any of the book stands and pick up a book and purchase it. Soft copies are 15,000 naira. Hard copies, hardback covers are 20,000 naira. On the way out, the individuals who will help you in terms of facilitating the payment with your POS and, making sure that the payment process is very seamless. Please feel free to pick more than one copy, several copies. You can decide to take the entire table if you're inclined that way. I'm sure a lot of us have people that need these books. So again, we're encouraging you, pick up the book and, start to experience it so that when we start the conversations, you're already also deep into the content of the book. Last but not the least, our hashtag for today is breaking the cycle. Breaking the cycle. And so as we're talking, as you feel there are insights that are important to you that you also want to share, particularly for those who are social media engaged individuals here. So please use the hashtag breaking the cycle and also tag HBC Consulting on all social media platforms and also Bruce Prins on also all social media platforms in all your insights and engagement. So thank you very much. So now I'd like to introduce our special guest for today to share with us a very brief keynote and talk to us about why they wrote the book. And please allow me to introduce you before you come on stage. The first person I will introduce, I've known her probably for over 30 years. Yes, informally, I'm that old. I'm not as young as I look. She has played different roles as an auntie, a big sister, a mentor, a coach, a big friend. In the last probably 10 years, also my boss, because she was on my board. I was the chair of my governance committee and was very, very instrumental in shaping my thinking around how we start to think around talent management, obviously in the social sector space, but how we needed to understand the evolving talent management trends, even in the line of work that we do, and making sure that we institutionalize those things within our organization, within the work that we do. And I'm very proud to say that, our organization is a hotbed of talent within the space that we work in. We have a very high retention rate, and, I really do appreciate her for that. She has several years of experience across anything you can think of across the talent management space, has worked directly, has consulted for organizations in the public, in the private sector. She has written many books. So this is not her first book. She has several certifications as a coach and as an expert speaker, and her name is Habiba Balogun. So you're welcome. So our second special guest is her co-author, and this is also not the first book they're writing together, and I'm assuming it won't be the last two. Okay. One of the things that I found very interesting about his profile was that, when we talk about talent issues, there's certain sectors that have that I've always had, and even much more so now, I've had those talent issues. So if you think of hospitality, the service industry for a fact, or even if you think of health, the health sector. So I know a lot of my friends in the health space, when people are talking about bleeding talent, they are definitely seriously bleeding talent. But he's had several years of experience working, building talent, building businesses, and a lot of even facilities and hospitality spaces that we've engaged with. I was even telling him the other day that I probably have met you at some point in Morehouse, in any of the travel hotel spaces and the like. His name is Bruce Prins. He's also someone who is a management consultant and has had a lot of years of experience advising, understanding even the talent gap space, not just within the hospitality and the health sector space, but across different industries. and he has co-authored this book with Habiba. Please, can we give him a round of applause? And so, please, can you join me in welcoming both Habiba and Bruce on stage as they give us their keynote address? Thank you.
Wow. I'm feeling very humbled, actually. I'm usually doing this on behalf of clients. I'm used to standing in front of a crowd, but normally on behalf of someone else.
I'm the eye candidate.
So thank you all so much for coming here. And I can see a lot of very important people. I know you have other demands on your time. Thank you for the sacrifice you're making to be here with us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Bruce,
I'll tell the story.
you tell the story. I was going to say, why did we write this book? So the first one was we need to break this cycle. I said, why did you write this book? I asked you a question about this Japa is really affecting my clients. In fact, I normally go and I engage and consult with my clients on performance improvement, functional, operational, process optimization, stuff like that. But for the past 2 years, the burning platform for all my clients has been talent retention, retaining their talent. And I just said, look, and then we're going to hear a lot more about it, but we see what happens to some of them who have gone abroad. Okay, and I know, but I was chatting with Bruce because we talk about a lot of things, and I said, how can we stop this Japa syndrome? So Bruce, go ahead.
And then I went, what's Japa?
So he said, what's Japa? I then explained
online,
it.
Go read about it.
Uh-huh.
And then I wanted to know, why is there Japa? So I started looking at a global scale, looking at the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, and I saw how everything affected. And then her and I worked on a training. We said, okay, let's train people.
We need to train our executives on how to cope with the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, and Japa. It's a pretty straightforward thing. Let's just do a training. So go ahead, Bruce.
So then we did the training.
Yep, we designed the training. Okay.
Hours of work.
Yes.
And then she comes to me and says, no, this will make a nice book. Come,
Yeah.
let's make it a book.
No, well, Bruce, I think that the story is too short. So we designed the training. We designed the training. And, anybody who's been trained by me knows that we always take our participants through a journey. Step 1, our self-awareness. So he said we have to do a self-assessment. Okay? So, Bruce, we said assessment of the organizations and assessment of this talent.
Value orientation.
And he said, oh, yes. He's a modern applied psychologist, right? So he said, oh, yes. There's this methodology. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yes, so I realized there's a theory in negotiation called value orientations, which can be applied to why employees do what they do and what makes them motivated. And I had advised people before on the fact that different things motivate different people.
Yes.
And so I said, well, how can you assess it with someone? So I designed an assessment which...
he took this research from a psychologist about what motivates different types of employees. So everything is now within the work context, right? And we said, look, okay, let's create a model around it. Let's create an assessment around it. Let's rename. Okay, so these different motivations, what name should we give them? Okay, and that was how the Prins Values Orientation Assessment was born, right? All as part of this whole book project.
Yeah, I can give them an example.
Yeah, well,
yes.
no, we're going to show them. We're going to talk about that later.
Right,
yeah.
Okay. Right.
So you have an orientation, and the first people to buy 10 books will get a free values orientation assessment, right? So I hope you buy some books. So after that, and they said, okay, how about we're talking about a big part of the story is compensation. And we understand that, look, big employers, multinationals can afford to pay their staff a lot of money. But the majority of organizations in Nigeria don't have that muscle. So what can they do in terms of a compensation strategy? So we now went for a nice drink and some tacos at the terrace in Lekki. We sat down, we were brainstorming different ways, different options that employers might have, right, in terms of a compensation, and we created a compensation strategy for this new normal.
Yes. And Mr. Balogun was the voice of reason.
Yes. Bolly knows that one of Bolly's mantras is entrepreneurship is hard. So we're saying, how about this? How about this? You just shut it down. That cannot work. this, that. So we went through a real iterative process and we came up with this compensation strategy. And you have a free compensation strategy self-assessment in the book for your organization. So I advise you to go back to your HR, if you have Comp and Ben, and let them use it and see how well their compensation strategy, is tailored to address the challenges of the new normal. And of course, what is the new normal?
Yes. The world of work has changed. For thousands of years, you had serfdom and slavery. People were doing based on where they were born or who they had access to, they did their job. And over the last century, it went from that to employees, then to associates. And some countries, yes, team members. And some countries now, look, in some countries you still have serfdom and slavery. I mean, it's different for everybody. But in the general trend is that where employers were saying, I've got a job to offer you, are you good enough? You have employees now saying, do I want to work for you? You need my skills. And it's happening more and more because they've looked at the older generations, and it's in the book where I talk about the different generations. You and I both, especially.
Yes. So
she
some
talks
people
about
are not
the
aware
older
of
ones.
some people are not aware of the generational divide. Many of you here are, so we actually had to put it in there, right?
So when you look at them, you notice that, for example, my generation, Gen X, work defines us, defines who we are. It's how we weigh ourselves in life. But if you look at Gen Z today, they want to make a difference, but it must represent their values. Because they looked at my generation and your generation and everybody and said, why did they kill themselves for no reason? They worked for 40 years and then they died. So the new ones are saying, no, my life must mean something. So it's not that they're lazy, and I go into it in the book. It's not that they're lazy, it's just they are now saying, I have skills. I can go do the same skills for myself and earn that same money that you're paying me to make money from, but I can go do 5 jobs and make that money. So it's become tougher to retain and attract talent.
Yeah, and employers just don't understand that. So employers still have the buyer's mindset. I have the money to pay you a salary. It's my way or the highway, okay? But the new normal is that it's a supplier's market, right? What COVID taught them was, if I don't have money, I can stay at home. Some of them built farms in their gardens, so I can actually eat from what I grow, right? And if I don't go out and about, I don't need money to spend. So they're ready to leave a job without a replacement, which we were never, ever. You have to have another job lined up before you would do anything.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I've also noticed when you talk about hospitality business, it's now more than money. It's also about treatment. It's also about what you're doing besides the money.
Yeah, I can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, and
so,
I'm sure you will. Just
okay,
give me a moment. Down, go.
Okay, go.
So you can see we work very well together. The thing is, for instance, I find myself now running a hotel with 100 staff. I'm helping them manage their emotions, because they didn't get the same life skills that we had when we were educated, when we were small kids. They don't bother about that so much these days. Also, there's more things thrown at them. There's more trauma. There's a lot of things. And a lot of adults now cannot manage emotions. So I find myself doing that. But the fact that I'm willing to do that as an employer, help them with their mental health, that's it,
yes,
means they value working for me.
Yeah.
Regardless of the salary.
And to build, it's not actually to build on it. So some of you will know that I do a lot of research and I publish reports on bullying, harassment, and discrimination in Nigerian workplaces. So I call it creating respectful workplaces. And I've done this research since 2017. I do this work for a lot of my clients. And why did I start? Because I am an organization effectiveness consultant. So my client is the organization. So I come at it with a business mindset. And when you go in and we diagnose what is going on in organizations, very often there's a recurring decimal, something that keeps popping up again and again and again. Why is this workplace not functioning? And it's not functioning because of disrespectful conduct by managers, by supervisors, by owners, right? For many of the, in some industries, they call it shredding, right? When you go for your performance review, they shred you. And that is supposed to motivate you that, look, I respect myself so much, I don't want anybody to ever be able to speak to me like that again. So I will perform and kill myself so that I never put myself in the position of needing to be shredded. But this generation, building on what Bruce said now, they don't know how to manage their emotions. When you just say one bad word to them, it might even say, what rubbish work is this? What rubbish work is this? For them, saying what rubbish work is this is the equivalent of, in our day, an employer looking at you and saying, are you sure you went to school and you have a degree? And this, for them, just that phrase, that word is enough to make them say, hey, I can't work here. I can't work here. They can't manage their emotions sufficiently to take the feedback and not internalize it, and maybe engage and say, look, I understand what you're saying. I know you're disappointed. I know I've let you down or whatever, but please don't speak to me like that. Yeah. I can't work somewhere because they literally can't. Their mental health issues are like, yeah. So I can see some nodding heads. I can see some of them nodding their heads saying, yes, yes, exactly.
And just to add to that, which is in the book, a lot of employees, when you hire them now, are asking about, salary is one thing, but mainly how my transport, where am I going to live, how can I get to work? They're talking about their lives around their job, not just their job.
Yeah, so lifestyle. Yeah. So for us, it was livelihood. How do we earn money to pay our bills and meet our obligations? For them, it's not livelihood. It's lifestyle. How can this organization help me so that I'm living close enough? I don't have to be in traffic 4 hours, 5 hours each way. So lifestyle is very important to them. So you need to be offering them what they are looking for, not what we think is good for them. Yeah? So, yes. Adenike, I think you tell me when our time is up, right? Because yes. Bruce and I can just talk forever.
We can talk
right?
for hours. We'll start writing a new book while we're standing there.
There we go. And in the course of, that is how the book, it came about. Number one, a question. How can we break this cycle of Japa? Because it's not the first time people are migrating abroad, right? But it is very different. So we looked at that. How can we train employers? So, because many of them are losing talent they don't need to lose. It's not because those people want to leave. It's because they can't see how they can stay, right? So we talked about that. Then we started building the self-assessments. And then we came up with different models. We said some people are visual. Let's come up with some models so they can see at a glance what are the sort of elements that they need to be taking into consideration. And we've got some posters here that show all of those models. And before I wrap up, let me just talk a little bit about this one here. It's called the Clarity Model. So many of you would have heard of VUCA, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And it was a description of the world, the post-Cold world, okay, where things were not so straightforward anymore. There were a lot of factors that you needed to take into consideration. And most modern management science is tailored to address a VUCA world. But during COVID and post-COVID, the world is no longer a VUCA world, strictly. It's also a BANI world. It's brittle. Things look solid. Companies that look unshakable, the next day they've broken, they've collapsed, they're gone, right? It's anxious. We have an anxious generation. So your staff now are an anxious generation. They're already anxious before they even came in to work for you, okay? So anxiety is something we're going to have to deal with. And us as employers too. The stakes are very high for many of us, right? Many of us had to pivot during COVID. So we still haven't recovered from the trauma of our business models being swept away from under our feet. And then it's non-linear. So that predictability is gone. If I do A and I add B, we will get C. That predictability is gone. It's now non-linear. And the I in BANI is incomprehensible because this is the data age. There is so much data, so much overwhelming data. We don't know which data to focus on. What information should I use to guide my strategies? So we came up with this model for employers to use to readjust their business strategies to tackle this VUCA and Bani world. So thank you, and please, I hope you enjoy the book.
Thank you.
Please pick up a copy and leaf through it as we're going through the rest of the launch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, another round of applause. A number of the frameworks and the structures that they referenced, you can also see them in blown out charts here at the back. I would like to acknowledge the presence of one of our special guests from the Lagos State government, specifically Mrs. Toyin Andrews Ademuyiwa. She's coming. Okay. Mrs. Yes. So Mrs. Titilayo Oshobu, who is the Director of Admin and Human Resources within Lagos State, you're very much welcome. Thank you so much. As we said earlier, this cuts across all the different sectors and conversations. A quick joke. I used to work in KPMG for about 8 years, and I joined KPMG as an experienced hire. And I remember when I came in, even as a senior associate then, it didn't seem that you could leave if your partner or very senior manager had not left. And so I remember maybe about 2000, probably about maybe 3-4 years after I joined the firm, we had some new hires who just joined us. And on their first day, we usually have new hires from October. And about 4:50, we just saw them walking. And we used to walk in a pool then. So everybody could see everybody going out. And all of us seniors and managers were looking. They just carried their bags and they went. No apologies, nothing. So the next day they did the same. So we just said, okay, maybe first day there was not a lot of work to do and everything. So second day they thought they did the same thing. And then one of my friends then called one of them and said, where are you going at 4:50? She said, why am I not going at 4:50? That 5 o'clock is my contract. That's the contract that I signed here. And there's nothing for me to do. And so for me, I think even a lot of these conversations, and I thought that was really bold because I was like, yes, if I don't have any work to do, why am I waiting for somebody to show that I'll leave? So, and we're seeing this more and more where it's not just you saying, why do you want to work for us? It's them asking you, why should I come and work for you? Sell your organization and your business to me. So as we move on in the conversation, I would like to introduce one of our other special guests who is going to give us a poem that speaks and reflects the conversations that we're having. And she's none other than Wana Udobang, someone who is a spoken word artist in so many forms and speaks to a lot of the social cultural issues. You're welcome, Wana.
Good morning, everyone. Are you guys they have given you food now. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Congratulations on the launch of this book. This poem I'm going to be sharing is written by Habiba Balogun. And I think it's safe to say that we need a poetry collection from you after this because it's such a brilliant poem. So it's called Breaking the Cycle. In the bustling heart of our vibrant land, the young dream dreams futures grand. Some choose to Japa, seeking foreign lands. Others Duro and nurture their homeland sands. Way out here, new faces, part to play. Grinding for a living, stacking bills that weigh. Tasting the strange, walking past that sway. Loneliness hits, yet it's a fresh page every day. Keep your tribe close. Don't let roots get light. The world's your canvas. Let your strokes be bright. Strangers on the daily, but own the stage with might. Your experience is gold in a foreign night. Back here where the Duro tribe, we hold our ground, dodging life's curveballs. In our rhythm we're found. We're tight-knit friends, families, communities embrace, while our peers are far in a different race. Struggles? Sure. But we stand tall, we stand firm. In the motherland's moonlight, we confirm. Skill up, score that job, rise at your own pace. Stay here, grow here, own the home base. Both roads are tough, the uphill climb is real. In distant lands or the home turf we feel. But whether you Japa or decide to Duro, you're the lead in your story, life's only hero. So listen up, because this is the heart of the chatter. The choice is yours in this global matter. Both paths can shine, both futures are bright. But consider this, maybe Duro can ignite. And for those who japa, keep this invite. Soak it all up, then bring back the light. Leverage your wisdom, your newfound insights to enrich the homeland and elevate our collective might. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So once again, that was a poem by Habiba Balogun that was also delivered by Wana. And there's a video clip of it online. Yes, it's actually, and I think it was Bruce's brother that also did the editing for the video clip. So there's quite a lot of creative and artistic talent. And perhaps we can share it with the guests after to view, to also share and exchange it. As I would like to also acknowledge the presence of a special representative from the governor of Lagos State in the person of Mrs. Toyin Anjus Ademuyiwa. You're very welcome. Please can we give her a round of applause? She's the Director General for the Office of Transformation, Creativity and Innovation. And she's going to be delivering a very short speech on behalf of His Excellency, Mr. Governor, the Governor of Lagos State. Great. Okay. So right after that, we're going to move into the panel conversation. And the way that will work is I will introduce our moderator for the day, who is going to moderate the panel discussion. When he was being introduced to me, I was told that he's one of three, say arometa, as they say in Yoruba, and a contemporary, a collaborator with one of our authors, but also somebody who works very strongly within the learning and development space and around talent management, and his name is Olumide Ajomale. So because we're trying to work around time, as soon as our special address from the governor is delivered, we would move very swiftly into the panel conversations. Are you ready? Let me take a very quick poll here. And I do know that we have some sort of a generational divide. So there were some words that came up. I mentioned them. Wana referred to them during the poem. We talked about japa. Who can define what japa is? Just.
Okay, so I think Japa is the quick exit from the country seeking more opportunities or better opportunities.
Excellent. I love that. What about Jakpada? So that laughter means that we're very familiar. Jakpada. Who are the Jakpada?
The ability to return back.
And then who are the one I mentioned? Who are the Duros? We are here, lost anywhere. Yes. We're the Duros. And so again, I think but the thing somebody was saying the other day that, this is also a cycle we've seen over the last decades. I remember growing up and hearing, Andrew, no checkout. So it's a cycle that we see. It's not just even in Nigeria, it's everywhere, it's globally. We've talked about the global resignation, the quiet resignation, a lot of these things and how to address them. More importantly, how to even recognize them when they're happening, before they happen. They're very well addressed in the book. So if you've not yet picked up a copy of the book, we have tables. You're free to walk up to any of the tables, pick up a copy of the book, 15,000 naira for soft copy, 20,000 naira for hard copy. Buy the book so that you're already engaging with them. We even said you can buy the table too, so let's know if you want to clear the table. So please join me in welcoming the representative of His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, as she delivers a keynote address on behalf of the Governor, Mrs. Toyin Anjus Ademuyiwa. You're welcome, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to represent His Excellency. Of course, he would have loved to be here with you, but due to official duties, he has asked me to be here and deliver his speech. interestingly enough, Lagos State government appetite for greatness is unlimited. And whenever we are faced or given the opportunity to collaborate, partner with the essence and the excellence that are within our state, it's always an exciting time. So I want to really thank Mrs. Habiba Balogun for really reaching out to us and saying that you really appreciate what we bring to the table. And of course, in return, your collaboration with the state has not gone unnoticed. Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure to join HR team leads, eminent thought leaders at the launch of the book titled Breaking the Cycle, Talent Management in the New Normal. This aptly titled book, which is coming at a time when organizations and employers are grappling with the fallout of the mass relocation of young men and women to foreign countries in search of better opportunities in what is now known as the Japa Syndrome, a phenomenon that has become the new normal, attests to the foremost role human resources plays in achieving organizational goals and objectives. I am therefore certain in my mind that this book would be a significant contribution to the discourse on talent management, especially in the context of the new normal that we find ourselves. The world has undergone unprecedented changes over the years, and as leaders in the public sector, we have a great responsibility to adapt and innovate in order to meet the challenges of this new era. Our ability to effectively navigate these challenges and drive the desired progress will largely be determined by how effective we are in unleashing and managing the potentials that are hidden in the human resource at our disposal. This book, co-authored by Habiba Balogun and Bruce Prins, has come at a crucial time when the need for strategic solutions, including a paradigm shift in talent management practices, is becoming very compelling. In 2018, the state government recognized that the existing traditional system of reward or motivation based on seniority and tenure was not suitable to drive the positive change we had envisioned for the Lagos State Public Service. This recognition led to the launch of the Growth Mindset Initiative with the objective of embedding the culture of creativity and innovation in the public service. Fast forward to year 2020, whereby the state government insisted that public servants should start to take ownership of creative solutions in solving problems of their MDAs and by extension, the state at large. Hence, faced transition to a system that values merit, individual capabilities, and potential. We have also established a selection process that ensures that our ministries, departments, and agencies are staffed with the best and the brightest, and by embracing a merit-based approach to talent management, we are attracting and retaining top talents who are contributing their skills, knowledge, and innovative ideas to the development of our state. We currently run an annual program called Ideas Day Innovation Competition, where employees are recognized and rewarded for their innovative solutions and their ability to lead the implementation of laudable ideas. In health, education, and finance, we've recently promoted officers that came up with ideas that not only increased the revenue of the state, but changed the narrative on how we're delivering healthcare and, more importantly, impacting education. At the core of our workforce talent management is our commitment to continuous learning and developing. This commitment is driven by the realization that in our rapidly evolving world, and for our state to continue to be globally competitive, our workforce must acquire new skills and knowledge through training, upskilling, and reskilling. Our administration's Themes Plus agenda is a deliberate mantra and call to action to embrace diversity in order to tap into a wide range of perspectives experience, and ideas, which will lead to more innovative solutions and better decision making. The new normal has presented unique challenges, and as leaders, we must respond appropriately by prioritizing the well-being of our employees and create a supportive work environment that fosters healthy work-life balance. That is why we have embraced the work-from-home policy, which we activate in critical periods. We've started during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have recently reactivated it to cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal and the attendant rise in transportation costs. We are currently looking at different technological advancements to streamline our talent management processes and make informed decisions based on data insights. By harnessing the power of technology, we can enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of our talent management processes. The launch of this book will add value in a way that it is meaningful to our state. Let me, at this junction again, commend the authors of this book for their valuable insights and recommendations on talent management in the new normal. I am sure that this book will serve as a guide for leaders in the public sector as we strive to build a dynamic and resilient public service. Talent management is a critical factor in the success of every organization. By breaking the cycle of the old approach and embracing a merit-based system, fostering continuous learning, promoting diversity and inclusion, prioritizing employee well-being, and leveraging technology, we can build strong and capable workforces that would drive the progress and development that we desire. I congratulate you on the launch of this important book, and more importantly, I will also support the request of the authors that we should try to pick up one. If you don't believe in holding on to a book, please let's get it online. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Have a good day.
Please, can we give another round of applause for Mrs. Toyin Anju-Sademuyiwa, Director General, Office of Transformation, Creativity and Innovation, representing His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State. Thank you very much. It's very inspiring to hear the public sector also developing a compelling talent management philosophy. I know that growing up, people always talked about the career in the public service space and how the public sector almost sort of set the benchmark for how people retained, recruited very high-performing talent, and we're quite excited to see that. I'm particularly excited to hear that. Thank you very much. So without much ado, I would like to introduce the moderator for our panel conversation, and they will be breaking down an interactive discussion on challenges in attracting and retaining talent in the new normal. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Olumide Ajomale, who is the President of Learning and Development Network International, an experienced facilitator himself, a coach, master trainer, practitioner, and so many things in talent management. You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be here on behalf of Habiba and Bruce. Let's give them a round of applause. While this event is about both of them, it's also about us as invitees. And this conversation that we'll hold will also shed more light into breaking down this book that these two wonderful people have put together. My name is Olumide Ajomale, as I have been introduced, and I'll be the moderator. I would like to use this opportunity to invite to join me here 3 other persons, and in no particular order. I'd like to invite Ajibola Ponnle, who many of you will recall, former Honorable Commissioner in Lagos State. You're welcome to take a seat. Thank you. She currently is founder of HIG Africa. Thank you very much. Welcome. Right. And I'm sure we'll have an exciting time sharing insights in the conversations. I'd also like to invite Funke Amobi, who's deputy head of operations Stanbic IBTC Bank. Let's keep the applause coming. Thank you. Do you want to join me here? Yes, sir. Thank you. Your choice. Thank you very much. So Olayinka, David West is on her way and should be. Oh, she had them. Yes, all right. Oh, please, let's put our hands together for her. All right. Please put our hands together for her. Very well. Off the aircraft. Thank you. So we're going to make this very light and engaging. So for those of us in the audience, if there's anything that catches your fancy and you'd like to contribute, just give a nod and I'll interrupt our panelists here and have you have the microphone. So this is really about all of us together. So I'm going to throw the first question, and I'm not sure who will go first, but let's say fastest finger, whoever has the microphone. So when you heard about the book and saw the book, what were your first impressions? What were your first impressions? So who would like to go first? If there are no volunteers, then I'll conscript. All right, okay. There you go.
So firstly, I'd like to say congratulations to Bruce and Habiba. Very well done indeed. That would usually be followed with an applause. Fantastic, thank you. When I heard about the book, Habiba is someone I respect so much, okay? And when she announced the book, firstly, I thought, bold Habiba again. Because the subject matter is one that requires some, courage to address. I've been a practicing HR practitioner for decades now, 25 years. And I know that the subject matter is one that has taken different forms and shapes in the last decade. It's been challenging for every practitioner to ace that game. Challenging for business leaders, more challenging than finance, to be honest. When the conversation of Japa entered the boardroom, he brought HR to the forefront. So when I saw the book, I thought, bold Habiba again. I was hungry to read the insights because I thought it's really, a breath of fresh air to have, someone like Habiba saying something in this regard. And as I flipped through the book and I saw the models, I'm one that's very big on frameworks. When I saw the models, I was even more, I was more impressed because I thought this is exactly what we need now. So I thought it was a conversation that needed to be birthed.
So right for this time,
for this season.
And
yes.
A bold step by bold Habiba. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ajibola, you want to say something?
Thank you very much. And thank you to Habiba and Bruce for inviting me to come and share this morning. I think just aligning with what Funke said, I believe the book is a book for now. I was, about 6 years ago, I was at CIPM as the registrar CEO. And one thing that I always said to HR practitioners is that you cannot lead what you don't know. And, for you to be an effective HR person, you need to understand how the human being works, the psychology of human beings, to know how to motivate and how to, directly address their needs and how to get them to work. So when I read the book and I realized that it actually delved deeper. So it wasn't a book that, it was very, very practical, and it delved a lot deeper into what motivates behavior, the values orientation system. It excited me because for me, it is something that people really need to look at because we are not fixed assets. human beings are human beings. You cannot tell a person that, look, when you get to work, I actually started off in KPMG like you, and they'll tell you, when you get to work, you have any issues, just drop it at the door. Finish your work, pick it up, and go back home and deal with it. But we're human beings. We cannot work that way.
And we know we don't work that way, actually.
Exactly.
Right.
So it was very refreshing to find that the book focused on those issues, beliefs, values, thoughts that actually are at the root cause and the base of behavior.
Thank you very much. All right, so let's hear from you. Your first thoughts about the book.
I was very impressed about the book, but when I first heard about it in December 2023 and was shared a reviewer's copy, I cringed because Habiba asked me to read it and review it before Christmas. So that was my first reaction to the book. But as I read it, I realized that basically we all need these tools. Whether I'm not an HR person, so we all need these tools in terms of how do you better manage your teams, how do you better manage your workforce to ensure that you're creating that conducive environment that they can not just for them to stay, but for them also to grow in. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Habiba, and I know you're sitting down here, you're listening to me. I mean, we've worked together over time, and one side of her that I admire is this initiative to document these salient things we've spoken about. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think she deserves another round of applause. Bruce, you also deserve that as well. Right. Away from the book, the challenges of these times, Japa, Japada. What's all of this been? I know we've spoken about it, I know we're sharing it, but let's dig deeper. Good, bad, ugly, necessary? Can I hear you?
Everything is good, bad, ugly, necessary. So the bottom line is it really depends on your own talent strategy. But I think one thing we can see globally is that talent is a competitive tool. And so nations really have to build their talent competitiveness. So whether we like it or not, we're not just competing internally amongst ourselves, we're competing with the rest of the world. And everyone is looking for the best talent. So if we don't decide how we're going to nurture and retain that talent within our own borders, and the challenge is we can't really afford to import a lot of talent. So how do we ensure that we build up that talent and build it up in a manner that it can stay and thrive within the organization? But one of the, Habiba and Bruce had three big syndromes, right? Quiet quitting, big resignation, and Japa. I think that there's a fourth one that you need to write about now, which is generative AI. And whether we like it or not, it's really seeping into the workforce, and we all need to reskill, because I can have a conversation with generative AI and it can really guide me and tell me what I need to do. So it's now basically augmented intelligence or human beings on steroids. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes. So what are your thoughts around all of this? Things that are deep around talent management.
Okay, for me, I think maybe the reason why Habiba called me on this panel is maybe the public sector angle to this conversation, because managing talent in the public sector requires a whole load of other skills, because that sector, which I believe is probably the most important sector that we're not even looking at all, really requires a lot of these sort of strategies that have been highlighted in the book. Japa for me is not necessarily a bad thing. I believe that the way we are, if I look from the public sector angle, we cannot really train the talent we require within the system. So when people go away, doctors will go, they will acquire skills
and
that
knowledge
are more advanced than they would ever have gotten locally. It's actually a positive for the nation. The problem comes where, how do we now bring them back? How do we attract them back to apply those skills that they ordinarily would not have gained if they had stayed in the system, and apply them back home. So those are the conversations that I know that at least Lagos State is having within the healthcare system. They're there. How do we get them back? So personally, it is what it is. What we now need to do is to see how we can get the opportunities, leverage this syndrome to be of benefit to us as a nation. I had a particular a friend who's an HR person. Within 6 months, she lost about 4 or 5 critical members of her team. And she was left struggling. So what did she do? These guys relocated to Canada. She recruited them from Canada. It takes a while for you to settle and to get a job. So she recruited them in Canada, working remotely for her in Nigeria, and also paying them the rates she was paying them before. So it's really, how do we creatively take advantage of what's going on, the trend right now?
So what I hear you say, that this is not necessarily bad.
No,
right.
I don't believe
Fantastic. So what about your thoughts on this? How does all of this fit in the reality of managing talent today?
Thank you. The reality is that the talent economy has changed. And the change is upon us. It's permanent. It's not going away. The players in the talent economy have changed. What it takes to manage talent effectively has changed. Talent retention, by definition, has changed. Once upon a time, I said to my team members, is talent retention real? Can you really retain talent? And that seemed to be a masterclass. People went on and on for so long. Now, there are many things impacting the talent economy. Is a rapid advancement in technology and the rise of artificial intelligence, and Professor went there a while ago. It is the multiple generational differences and the continued, and how this impacts employee expectations. You know, we say this constantly changing consumer expectations, the ship's industry, but constantly changing employee expectations, or employee if you like, engagement indices, is driven by all of these changes I'm talking about. It is also the changes in societal preferences. It is the rise in globalization, the blurring of the lines of businesses, which means that opportunities for talent to excel is push and pull effect, keeps pushing itself to them constantly. Once upon a time, long ago, when I started out my career, don't do the math, I had to buy Guardian newspaper, Tuesday Guardian.
Yeah.
When I was out of uni.
Yeah.
To figure out the vacancies. My late mom would go, have you bought Shotira Guardian? Because she was like, how are you going to get the job? Guess what? Here lies the Guardian, isn't it? It's right on your phone. So is the rapid advancement in technology and how it is changing the dynamics of talent acquisition, changing the dynamics of retention, changing the dynamics of employee engagement. So once upon a time, Gartner came up with just 12 questions. HR practitioners understand that to figure out how to keep your people engaged and talented people, bums on seat, was just to get them to answer 12 questions. Do you have a friend at work? Remember those 12 questions? Do you like what you do? Do you like your land manager? Has somebody told you thank you today? Simple, just Google Gallup 12, sorry. Not Gartner, Gallup Q12. Then you knew who was actively engaged and was never going to go anywhere. Talent retention, simply defined. Guess what? That talent retention cannot work for you any longer. Because the talent that is not looking for a job, who has a good friend at work, who has all of those things, simply was with his or her phone, and the job comes looking for you. And with the rapid advancement in technology and rise in AI, it means that there are tools that can, enable acquisition, enable retention, enable active engagement beyond what we can imagine. And these are constantly changing dynamics. So it's the time for the business leaders and the HR practitioners to get our heads around understanding all these forces, the forces impacting the talent economy. Because it's when we understand those forces, like Professor mentioned, understand how do I leverage artificial intelligence. The other day I was speaking to HR practitioners about understanding artificial intelligence conversations in the workplace. One of the conversations is leveraging artificial intelligence for talent attraction and retention. That's one of the conversations in the workplace. So again, back to that factor driving the talent economy, rapid advancement in technology, the rise of AI. How many of those tools are we familiar with to figure out who is even going to Japa? Oh, you can leverage AI to figure out who is going to Japa. You can.
True that. True
It's
that.
gathering the appropriate data. You can.
Absolutely.
The data is there.
Yes.
It's human behavior.
Yes. The data is there. And it's leveraging that data to predict. It's leveraging that data to analyze. It's leveraging that data to source and figure out where am I going to find the people with the dynamics that I'm looking for and the people that will stay. It's a persona, it's a person type. And as the dynamics keep changing, it shows in what Bruce and Habiba have pulled forward as motivational dynamics. You get to see what are my changing motivational preferences, and it tells you what I'm likely to do.
Thank you. I want to change the tone of the conversation a little bit. Where is quiet quitting in all of this? We talk about Japa. There are those who don't jar at all. But they have mentally, emotionally, and everythingly jarred. Let's talk about quiet quitting.
Let me add a dimension. I think a lot of people who are working in your organizations, believe it or not, are doing 2 or 3 other jobs. Take it or leave it. They're micro-working somewhere or the other. And I think that's one of the challenges when Funke was talking about the whole talent economy, that the nature of work has changed in itself. For us, work was 9 to 5, you stay fixed, you stay. But for some people, work is activity-based. They just want to work for 4 hours a day and they can get jobs and gigs and then do what they need to do and they go home, right? And sometimes those gigs can actually earn them as much as they were doing if they were doing a 9 to 5. So on the demand side, some workers are really being able to slice up and decompose their jobs. What I find is in Nigeria, we haven't thought in that way. A lot of our jobs are still very fixed rather than very decomposed and defragmented. So you can say, see, you can do this task and you can do this activity very well. Come and do it for me twice a week and I'll pay you for the activity. And it's a transaction. Because all he wants to do is complete the activity. He doesn't want to be employed in that sense. So you find that especially in areas like the creative sector, how do we also make work for the people who want to do the work in an enjoyable manner? So we also need to go back to our own organizations and say, how do we start to think about getting jobs done, not employing people in that full-time sense?
Fantastic.
To add, I'd like to add to what Prof has said. The new generation coming into the workforce, it's, as you have said, it's not about work. It's about doing things they love. I'm sure many people here have children who you've spent loads and loads of dollars educating in one particular line, and they finish and like, oh, actually, all I want to do is just produce music, or I just want to be a makeup artist. But those are, they're jobs that are making a lot of money. And people working now in those 9 to 5s, as Prof said, they are doing those side gigs, whether we like it or not. So what are organizations doing to recognize that, people are working 2, 3 jobs? And many people don't know, which is why that quiet quitting, it's not necessarily that they've quitted on the job, but they're just so engaged, distracted, doing so many other things that they don't have that full commitment
attention
to what they're doing. So one of the points that was, that you wrote about in the book is the fact that you need to have a method where your staff are not only mentally connected to the work they're doing, but their heart, affectual connection must be there. That is when the two are working. That's when you can get your staff to work over and above what you're paying them for, and you have their discretionary effort. If their heart isn't there, they're doing 3 or 4 other things on the side.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So this is the time that I'd like to involve the audience. What are your thoughts? Hand somewhere? Yes, sir. Can I have someone? All right, there's a microphone coming from behind. Thank you. Could you just tell us who you are, sir? And
good morning. Bayo Akinloye is my name. Thanks, madam, for this audience. I think this is a very interesting time. You know, as I was coming here now, you know, when you work in the consulting space, you understand this is not the time to enjoy, you know, recruitment. Because the more you take time to hire, the more you have high blood pressure. I just got in here now, you know, somebody I placed on a job, I was already planning to invoice. And she sent me a text message. Without waiting for me to have a conversation, she said to me, and I read, "Thank you so much for trying to help me out. And all with getting a job. Thank you for helping me out to get a job. I had to leave this morning." Could you imagine? She just sent me this text message this morning, 10:09. This was a young individual who, very promising, talented, and I went all out to make sure I took time, had an interview, coached her, and all of a sudden, and at some point, I was trying to monitor, I realized that based on what we are discussing here, this issue of multiplicity of skills, and a whole lot of things that happened during COVID, which has enabled a lot of people to discover other things about themselves, we are facing the implications now. Because number one, these people, they have dual skills, they have dual areas of concentration. So when they sit in the work environment, you give them the simple instruction, they mix everything up. Because they're trying to do a lot of things at the same time. And there's something that I try to work on in the recent times. People are talking about mental health. But there's a balance between the mental health and the capability to actually cope with the job. So people are mixing it up. You don't have the capability to cope with the complexity of a job. So when you are given an instruction, you turn it to a mental health issue. So, you know, I'm actually doing research that has actually prompted me to begin to look at things in that light. Everyone has mental health. When illness is the problem. And there's the complexity that is required to actually get a job done. So if I said to you, you are not doing well, you go back to your seat, I say, my manager is making me to have mental health. It's just, so, you know, we need to get this discussion going because it's affecting a lot of things in the context of work.
Thank you very much. And I would like to publicly align with your thoughts because within me, many times over, when I hear conversations around mental health, I have also discovered that it's been a convenient canopy for many people to hide under. That's conversation for another day. But then I sympathize with you. Can you still raise that in voice? All right, so that still talks about the challenges of managing talent today. But let's take these conversations in another dimension. What about looking at the issues of talent management and how it can benefit national life? And I'll give you my thoughts here. We all know the stories around doctors in Cuba. They're trained, they're released, they go abroad, they send money home. We know of the Filipinos, medical personnel, but more importantly, nannies, carers, and others in that space. So they leave the Philippines, they go around the world, and they remit money back to the Philippines. Now, these are examples where, if you mind, Talent has been sourced out of those environments. The proceeds have returned into those countries. And so I doubt if they will complain about Japa. What is the likelihood of us in Nigeria benefiting from talent migration for national development, if you mind? Prof, any insights?
No, it makes sense. And that's one of the things the central bank also relies on in terms of repatriations coming back home. So it makes sense. And I think that for us that has a large population, it also makes sense to use talent as an exportable item in that sense. So one of the things we're thinking around, I'm just coming from Abuja for this National AI Strategy Workshop, how can we create sufficient talent for the rest of the world? Because you have the raw materials. You have the population, they are the median age 19 plus or so. So why don't you enable them, empower them, and send them out to the rest of the world? So it's happening.
So it's happening. Fantastic. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was just going to say that I think Nigeria has one of the highest remittances globally. So, I mean, if we calculate the dollars that's coming back into the country from these sort of arrangements, people are sending money back, and it's extremely significant. I don't have the numbers, but I think the government and the country is benefiting from the fact that Nigerians are all over the world. And when we do go, we are doing so well. America, I think they're one of the highest trained minorities in the States. And, Nigerians are doing well everywhere, and they're actually remitting the funds home one way or the other. Sorry? Okay, so we're actually working with both federal and state government to, recognizing that we have a huge youth population that, they're unemployed. So the focus is for us to see what they can do, upskill, and get skills that they can use to gain employment immediately. Focus for us is not necessarily for them to work locally, but to also use those skills, the certification from those skills, to work across Africa and also to work globally. I think countries like India have taken advantage of that process, especially in tech, and there's no reason Nigeria can't do the same. And I think that's what the state government, they're planning on doing 50,000 tech training programs, and federal is doing 3 MTT, that's 3 million people in the next 5 years. That's the model that we're trying to key into to ensure that Nigerians can be upskilled, the certification can be put in employment immediately, either locally or for global opportunities.
Very good. Yes, ma'am.
To be honest, there will always be, it's a demand and supply conversation. There will always be shortages, talent shortages in certain areas, i.e. nations. There would always be surplus in certain areas. So the movement of whether it's Japa or, through simple global talent management, the movement of talent across, countries, across nations should be something that we're comfortable with, because it's come to, it has to be, because it's a demand and supply conversation. Now, we will do well also as a nation to, as both speakers have said, to be very active with our demand planning, to be very active with demand and supply, dynamics, because it's in the management of demand and supply that we can really get talent management right. So can we forecast where are the critical skills that we're going to need in country in the next 10 years? And how are we going to build those skills? So it's going to have to be an integrated agenda, i.e. multiple stakeholders, private sector, public sector, educational sector. It's going to have to be an integrated effort. There's no point where when we know we're going to require X number of engineers, X number of, data scientists, X number of, robotic engineers. Given the tide of events, there's no point knowing we're going to require X number in the next 10 years, and the universities are doing nothing about it. We are going to then have a scarcity. In all of this Japa and everything we're talking about, and the challenges of talent retention, you would be shocked to figure out that in several sectors, there is still a talent shortage. There's still, for certain roles, constantly looking, there's still scarcity of talent. We're constantly looking and looking and looking before you find the right candidate. So we will do well as a nation. Talent management for me at a national level is really getting it right with talent, demand, and supply management. Understanding those areas we can forecast our talent needs and be sure that all the related sectors, in particular the universities, there's no point university curriculum doesn't change and the world of work has changed. What it then means is we will continue importing talent to fill that gap. There's no point also specific areas that the nation requires to turn its indices around, the GNP, the GDP around, are in constant demand, and they always have to source it from, beyond. Then the truth is, we will continuously have this challenge. Because Japa is not entirely bad, except, of course, we are Japaing the wrong skills. So, if the skills that are adding very minimal value, Japa, I'm telling you, the companies concerned will rejoice. But where we are having a challenge is the talents that you require to drive the economy are Japaing. So I think we would do well to do talent, demand and supply management at the national level very well.
Can I just add that Lagos State is actually doing that already? They're working on a labor market information system in conjunction with GIZ, the German Development Agency, and this is what they're trying to do to see where the demand, the supply of labor, and how they can match even within Lagos, which regions are demanding what skills and what jobs, and how they can match the demand supply and backward integrate to the skills they are training for tertiary.
And we need to make this visible. So Lagos State is doing it. There should be visibility.
Absolutely.
Bring it to the digital divide.
But there's something else that I need to bring in here. And I hear you talk about engineers, data scientists, robotic engineers, and the like. Aren't we also placing, or rather, aren't we not losing focus on vocations?
True.
So, for example, I had the recent experience of renovating a home. And I had these artisans employed by the lead bricklayer. So they were laying tiles, and I noticed how diligent these guys turn up at 7 a.m., start work, and they're there till 6. It was only about a week into the assignment that I realized that they were Togolese. Now, the beauty of it was that as they worked, I noticed the diligence, but also the quality of their output. When they finished, so there was a break, and they went off for Christmas, and they didn't come back until end of January. Why? The lead bricklayer couldn't lay his hands on them because they had gone off on another assignment. If we're busy importing Togolese at that level, why aren't we paying attention? And the other side of the coin is some recent guy jackpot to the UK, and he went on a carer mission. But unfortunately, his agency couldn't sign him on. So he's been in the UK earning nothing, depressed. And somebody said to him that, remember I told you before you left that you should go and learn barbing. Learn how to be a barber. That if you had done so, there would have been a local barbing salon that black men would need to touch up their hair, and you could have been earning some good money. So, the focus again is because of the population, the dynamics of our population between 18 and 30. And not everyone is going to acquire tertiary education. So, what are we doing about focusing and building capacity such that, again, if it means exporting those, that's also something for the national treasure? What do you think, Prof?
I totally agree with you, and I think that there's a lot of opacity in some of the systems government has put together. Because we do have a TVET framework. And that TVET framework actually has steps, a maturity model, and certification processes. And the bottom line is, how many people know about the TVET framework? So when Lagos State is putting together an LMIS, right? Are they incorporating the TVET framework in saying that once you have your certificate, you can get from step 1 to step 2, then this is the type of job a step 1 bricklayer can do and a stage 2 bricklayer, etc. I think it's really just about how do we take what we have? Because we believe we don't have much, but we have a lot of resources that have been developed and thought through. How do we take what we have and start to implement and run with it? And how do we also take this thing about professionalism seriously? You know, you can phone your bricklayer today now and he'll tell you that, Mutimbo, but it's still in Oworoshoki.
Oh, mistakes.
Yeah. And professionalism exists everywhere, in every vocation, but it's not a culture that we practice. You go to the hairdresser, the next thing she's whispering to you, and tell you come and do it for you at home. But she's using somebody's resources and basically taking out of somebody's resource pool to market herself in that way. So we need to also build some of these fundamental foundations. Otherwise, yes, we'll create the talent, but can we sustain and create the credibility? Because tomorrow you will call the Beninois team back. Will you call your Nigerian team back or refer them for a future job? And on market information systems like what Ajibola is saying, what do we feed on? Referrals. So if there's no referrals, then there's no future work. And then people will abandon those platforms saying there's no work there. So it's a whole economic system in itself and a life cycle.
Prof, and I think that's a nice dimension you brought in, that we shouldn't just be training people for skills and competencies, but also about character. And I think that's important. Yes, Ajibola.
No, I was just going to say that a major part of the work I'm doing right now is actually in this area. That's why Wumi is sort of smiling right now. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why Nigeria and Nigerians should be importing bricklayers, carpenters, tailors, but that's what we do. There's absolutely no reason because we have the people. So many times, our focus when we're talking about talent management, we're talking about the big corporations, private sector, who seem to be getting it right. But when we're talking of talent management from the national level, that informal sector is an area that almost like is an elephant, and we're not even looking there at all. When you go to Togo, their apprenticeship system is so solid. These bricklayers, it takes 7, 8, sometimes 9 years, 7 years, I think, at an average, for them to go through the system and they get a certificate. The same thing with catering, the same thing with carpentry. Nigeria, after 1 year, they have collected freedom and they are there. they become mechanics, and they
and not only do they do freedom,
fast track freedom.
Yeah, they do freedom, and then they have a big party for it.
And yes, everybody will be there, and they're half baked.
Absolutely.
So part of the work we're trying to do, again, working with the TVET, LASVEB, Lagos State Vocational Education Board, is to start training, upskilling, and putting these people onto a platform where individuals can actually access them. But at least that when you're calling a plumber, these are people who have been trained. When you're in England, you don't realize that private schools are filled with the children of these vocational education plumbers, whatever, they're building contractors. It is their children that are in these schools. So there's a lot of money to be made from that ecosystem.
Absolutely.
If they do the right thing, professionalism. If I can get an electrician that I can call and trust, not that it's touch wood, I don't know what they're going to do, whether it's the right thing. We just do, we call these people based on trust. We don't know what they know. Nothing. So that's part of the work that, I'm committed to doing, to sanitize that industry,
It is obvious that is a place for national economic development that we need to begin to pay attention to. Let's come back to the workplace. So, what should organizations be deliberately doing around talent management? What are the things to get employees engaged, the things to get employees interested, and the things that employees need to say, I'm not going anywhere for as long as they treat me well? What are your thoughts, Funke?
So I think organizations need to pause and rethink their talent management methodologies, the strategies altogether. It's time to pause and rethink. I recently celebrated my 10th year anniversary at Stanbic IBTC. And someone asked me, when we're talking about people hopping, and leaving after 1, 2, 3 years, you're in one place for 10 years. How? What exactly are you looking for? And what are you thinking about? And what has made this happen? And I said to the person, the person said it's not, I think Prof and Jibola are giving the answers already. Now, the person said to me, I need to understand why you stayed. So what is that talent retention? It's different because the millennials think that you're out of your mind. What are you doing there? So my answer was, look, I don't think it's a matter of being millennial and being the other generation. It's a matter of meaningful work and the definition of meaningful. Regardless of whether I'm, Gen Z or there's my definition of meaningful work. And if I can get my definition of meaningful work, even as a millennial, within the organization, I'm likely to be there for 10 years. But the first thing that the organization needs to do is understand my definition of meaningful work. So I had a millennial who was leaving, and in the exit interview, so it's what are we doing with all this data? At the exit interview is like, you've critical talent, you've got one of the best opportunities that anyone would have. You're on the fastest track in code. So in terms of promotion, is happening, faster than others. And your opportunities, and you know what she said to me? I want to experience a startup. I want to know what it means, what it feels to work for a startup. And she was resigning from a big, stable environment. That means that stability, you've defined it as job security, job this, job that, But the meaning she was looking for and her retention strategies was, give me an opportunity to deal a startup. And I thought, look, if you have a new subsidiary, just throw the person there. Go and make it work. You just have to take it from an idea on the table to a profitable balance sheet. We don't want anything otherwise. So it's about, organizations going back to the drawing table to rethink, relook, move things around on what are the talent management strategy, talent retention strategies that are absolutely aligned to that meaningful work that employees are looking for today. We have to figure out that meaningful work. Because for some people is that, I get work-life balance. I just want to be able to, be more flexi. That's meaningful work. So we must be in the pursuit of understanding the meaningfulness around the
Thank you.
workplace.
And I think that's something to creep into my dictionary now. Meaningful work. Are you providing meaningful work? Thank you. Ajibola, let's hear from you.
I think for me, in addition to what she said, organizations need to understand even things like the personality of individuals they're recruiting into their company. There are some people who just by their nature, it could be linked to the values orientation, they're not natural marketers. They're analytical. Their personality is more direct. They're correct. They're behind the scenes people. They just want to analyze. You throw them to go and lead somewhere and to go and start marketing where people drain them. When they're talking to people, it's actually a drainer. We need to start better aligning people's individual differences and preferences with the type of roles and the work that we're giving to them. So again, going back to the VOS, there was one, I think there's 6 of them, one of them was power.
if you are able to align and say, okay, this person likes power, they like activity, put them into your new opportunities, put them into a project that is challenging and not the wrong person. So it's really, for me, being a little bit deeper and more deliberate about using your understanding of human beings, human nature, preferences in placing, advancing, deploying individuals within your organization, in addition to many other things.
So essentially, you're talking around people fit, ensuring that we have the right people for the right roles.
And also monitoring the changes in their preferences. Those changes can come as a result of change in status. They might come in as single, now they're married, therefore their preferences is that I want more time with my values have changed, they've shifted. Now for me, it's family, it's children, it's husband. Therefore, I don't need this demanding job. So HR people have to be a little bit more, deeper? In analyzing individuals and not just bucketing people into one.
And I'd still like to tie it in with where Funke was coming from. It's consistently ensuring that work is meaningful for people along the line.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. So let's hear from you.
Okay. I think I align with Funke and Ajibola because the first attempt of work for me was over a summer holiday. I said I wanted to go and work in a company. So my mom put me in a company. And I would go there every day. They just said, oh, sit in the video room and be watching video all day. I quit after 3 days. I said, I can't be waking up to go and sit down just watching video. And you know what they told me when I told them I wasn't coming back? They said, oh, you didn't tell us you wanted to work. And so that's the experience we get. So it's about how do we ensure that there is value orientation? Because they felt that, oh, the mother just put her somewhere, right? She just wants something for her daughter to do over the summer holiday and put her somewhere. But I think I want to align on what Jibola said in terms of HR needs to be more granular. What are the components of each job? What are the personality types of each job? Then what are the personality types of the person I want to put in the job? So HR just reading a CV, oh, they went to school, they've worked before, they have a degree, they've done youth corps, oh, he's fit for the role. It doesn't exist anymore. And that's why you find a lot of mismatches in the placement process today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies, thank you for your insights. Members of the audience, thank you for listening to us. I think the challenge is Bruce and Habiba will have to do a part 2 of this book. Because it is obvious that you haven't exhausted the issues at hand. But let's say congratulations and big thank you. Because the issues of talent management will not go away. It's probably fresher because of the challenges of current times, and there'll be newer insights that we haven't even handled here. So we'll be waiting for the new edition. Congratulations.
A round of applause for our panel. Please, can you just stay? We're still going to invite you to join us with something shortly. I liked also the reference that we need an overall, how would I put it, labor strategy as a country. How are we aligning our people strategy with the overall economic dimension, where we're projecting to the education sector, the courses, the programming, how people are being taught, and how are we developing, not just as companies, but as a country as a whole, even as states, because we have states here represented. I like the opportunities that technology and AI presents to even solve some of those issues that we're having. I'm very big on mission-driven talent for any business and any organization. When we recruit, you have to be passionate about our mission first. You may not even have the skills in that way or the experience, but if you're passionate first about the work that we do, then probably there's alignment there. We have one or two questions that we'll take from our online audience, but I was also looking around and I thought there are quite a number of, there's some of our experienced HR persons and gurus in the house, and we would also like to get a few comments from them. And I'm going to start with Mrs. O. I mean, you've had several decades of, managing people, talents, and you continue to do that. Could you perhaps share with us your thoughts on this conversation and just strategies for individuals and businesses on how to manage the evolving talent trends? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to our fantastic panelists, all of whom I know. And congratulations again to Bruce and to Habiba for this fantastic book called Breaking the Cycle. And if you haven't bought your copy, don't just go away with one. Buy for everybody in your organization, as I will be doing when I leave. The conversation has been extremely rich. All I want to say really is that this book is timely. That's the first thing. And I think it really provides very useful nuggets and frameworks and models which are useful not just in the private sector, the public sector, across board. The second thing I want to say is that I think HR and the role of HR, the time for HR has come in terms of HR professionalism. It's probably the most difficult job in the world, given the complexity of the work economy, the new world of work, and the new normal. So you need, at a time like this, to ensure in your organization you have fantastic, capable, current, up-to-the-speed HR professionals. And if you don't, you need to be engaging top-notch consultants, and they are here. Habiba Balloon Consulting, Bruce Prins, and so many of the others. Okay? What I want to also say is, and I think the panelists, the experts in the panelists have already touched on them, which is that I think Funke talked about meaningful work. In some organizations, they call it purposeful work. In other parlance, they say, what is the why of work? So when you're recruiting, we focus on the what of work. But what is the why of work before we now talk about how that work is actually done? So what is the why of work? And that touches on engagement. How do you engage the employee? And how does that employee experience the work? Because you do not know what is in the mind of a man, and it's never been more difficult than now, okay? You think an employee you have engaged is happy. I have the different generations in my house. I have children. And I'm amazed every time when one of my children, one of them is 31, the other one is 34, and the other is 36. And they come, it looks like a good job. I think they are happy. I know the organization values them. They are being paid well. And then they come along and say, Mom, I'm thinking of doing this, go out. And I cannot understand where that has come from. So I'm not a psychologist. Why I think what Habiba Balogun and Bruce Prins have done, and I think it is unique and very useful, is because Bruce also, has the psychology element. Habiba Balogun has vast experience along the whole HR value chain. And she's also worked in organizations. She's been a consultant for a very long time. And she's worked in both public sector and I've experienced her personally. So she's excellent. So that combination, because I think it was Ajibola who was talking about the preferences, really, you need to be very emotionally intelligent now as a HR practitioner, as a HR consultant, whether you're giving advice and how you're handling people. Because just one word, who was it? One of the speakers said, corrective word. So I have a task to do. I have to deliver on a task to my clients, to my customers, which is the reason why we exist. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to pay your salary, right? And you have not done it when you are supposed to have done it. And you have not delivered on the task that was supposed to have been delivered yesterday. and the line manager calls you into their office nicely and queries you about why that is a mental health problem. That is the reason why you are now disengaged the next day. And I am not a babysitter. I don't even have the time to babysit you because I have other responsibilities. So it's very complicated. I'm not sure that I have, as a baby boomer, all the answers. But the challenge is there, and I believe that books such as these and conversations like the rich conversations we've had today will go a long way to helping us to find the solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. O. I think we should have one or two, because I do know that we have some of our maybe younger members in the audience. So if anybody would also like to respond on that, on the perspective of the employee, because we've been talking a lot around that. So just very quickly, introduce yourself and please keep it brief. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ekhoe. So I do HR for Deloitte, West Africa. Well done, Habiba, and well done. The book is very important because HR right now, we are an endangered species. Yes. So right now we have 5 generations in the workforce, grandfather and grandchildren, right? So talking on this, from the employee side, I think that as an organization, we also need to own talent management. The organization needs to own it. It's not only HR. So from management to line managers to HR to even the people. Again, another thing is accountability. So when people are not held accountable, it's a problem. So therefore, they'll hide under mental health. Because there's nobody asking them for what they were meant to do. KPIs were set. So if there's no KPI in the beginning, it's a problem. Again, sentimental nuances in the workplace. Well, I don't want him to feel bad. I don't want her to resign tomorrow. But we have talent management principles, right, that we have to keep to. So if they understand, if we, the employees, because I'm also an employee, right, to understand that we're held accountable, then it happens. And thank you so much, panelists. You've done so well. I just want to add something. In the space of the government, we have everything in place already. I'm sure we have ministries in charge of vocational studies, right? We have tertiary education, but right now, it's not being looked at. Our education, I'm sorry, Funke said something. In a few years' time, we would not have talent. Because guess what? The schooling system or the educational system is not working. So we're always on strike. So therefore, I'm looking for people from the private universities. People that do not have money to go to private universities, what would happen? Those in the federal and state universities, the quality coming out is not okay. So let's face that part. Let's also face the vocational part. We have it all here. Accountability again. Implementation again. So it's a cycle. We all have a role to play. Thank you.
A round of applause. I'm coming. Yes. I will take a comment from Mrs. Ajo Balogun. I know she's doing some work in this space.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Well done, Habiba, and well done, Bruce. I'm so glad somebody's actually tackling these issues because I think I'm at the point now where I'm going to leave all the emotion out of it and just be practical in terms of what we're trying to achieve. For so many years now, I've been working with youth, particularly in universities, and I've come full circle now, and I need to leave the emotion out of it. So I'm so glad that tech is available. I'm glad that we can have conversations around AI. And I'm now at the point of how do we match the talent to those that want it? And I can remove myself from that equation and hope that everything will still work out because I'm not getting any younger, as we all know. Just to add to what was said by the panelists, it's really exciting that you're all in the space where you can make the change that we all want to see. Because there's no point talking about the advancement and working in tech and all the training that happens there without paying attention to vocational skills. And I think that if you look at what the UK has done, in as much as I hate comparing ourselves with other countries, they actually, I think it was maybe 2003 that they went back to vocational skills training. And that obviously is what boosts any economy. So we really need to pay attention to that. Lastly, I'm working in an organization at the moment that is training 1 million software developers. Sounds amazing. We have 3 MTT, we have 500,000 and all the rest of it. we also need to look at the challenges that these youth are facing. I think that if you're talking about training in tech, they need laptops, they need electric, they need data. How are we addressing those issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll take 3 more comments.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me say to Habiba and to Bruce, great effort. And happy that I'm here to not to listen to you guys, but also to the panel's conversation around the issues that we're talking about. I've spent the last, I'm not as old as I look. I've spent the last 40 odd years practicing law, running law firms. And only in the last 5 have we had to deal with talent management and talent drain and, all of those kind of things that scare us. The reality is that those of us that are old school can't understand why people want to work 3 days a week. But every time we say, let's back to the way it used to be, they don't respond to you. They just look at you like, where are you from? Because it's extremely difficult, different. But one of the things that I just thought, just to add to the conversation, so professional services, and I was reading an article on the Times just this morning that about a TikTok legal career. And the definition of the TikTok legal career was a very instantaneous, spontaneous word, where all we did was work 3 days a week. Actually, people tell you they work, but they don't tell you they're on vacation, but they send you emails from a beach somewhere. But that's their contribution to the growth of your firm, to the growth of your business. And but the article went on to say that actually, if leaders, professional services leaders, don't get with the act, we will constantly run up against this totally different world, totally different dynamic that we're starting to see. So, just to agree that talent drain, if we don't change, is here to stay. The question is how, well, I guess we're all, those of us that remember how things used to be done are retiring. But the reality is that it should alarm those of us that are in management, because we're investing significantly in training. We're going through significant changes around how we hire people and how do we signal to them that the long-term viability, sustainability of our businesses is driven by the experience that our people get on the job. So I think actually all the issues that we've talked about are critical to growth, not just profitability within the firm, but how we mentor people. One of my classic sayings to associates in my firm is, even if you decide that you don't want to come into the office, it's very difficult for me to mentor you on Zoom. Mentorship, the way I understand it, is that you sit with me at a meeting and you see the way I bang on the table, you see the way I look across the table, you see me walk out, you know that this man is not annoyed, but he's just faking it. But it's difficult to do by Zoom. So if there's, and so that's a signal that I try and send all the time, and I think it's important that that we try and do that. But net, to just, Habiba and Bruce, I quickly flip to your conclusion. And I think you've said it the way we should, the takeaway. We need to be more caring. We need to be more respectful. We need to have a nurturing environment. Actually, what you're saying to us is that for those of us that lead, we need to behave like parents. And not parents because we want to necessarily take over a role or a responsibility. But if we're going to grow our businesses, then we need to understand that we're doing more than just giving instructions. So adaptability is the name of the game. And so I think that the message in your book, the reality of our lives, sustainability of our businesses, if any of those things are going to push us, then actually you guys have identified these issues. And for that alone, I'm going to buy lots of copies to share. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We can only take 2 more questions and comments. Ms. Banwo Adeosun, and then Wana also had indicated.
Thank you, and good afternoon all. I think it's been a wonderful discuss this morning stroke afternoon, and congratulations to Habiba and Bruce for bringing this, for birthing this book. For many of us, we have thoughts that this is what we want to do, but it never comes to fruition. So well done again. I think one thing that we've taken for granted and we haven't spoken about, and I thought we should just highlight in the place of, or in the discourse around talent management, is compensation. For many of the people who are jackbuying or jackbuying pada, whatever it is, it's just, they're trying to survive. So for many of us as leaders or as executives or as employers, we need to ensure that our compensation, our benefits are fair enough to just ensure that people can survive. Because when they can't survive, then every other thing we're saying here goes out of the window. And because of what has happened in our country lately, it might be also challenging for even us as employers. So that's where flexibility comes in. That's where all we've been talking about today. How can you make the workplace more comfortable, more flexible for people that they will stay? The other reflection I have is that, yeah, we're having a conversation here, but we can only really still affect a limited number of people from the private sector. The real change comes from the government, whether it's at the state or at the national. So it gladdened my heart when I heard what Ajibola was doing. Many of us need to get into that space and begin to contribute back, because that way we reach millions, we reach the whole of the country. So in any way that we can help, when we can partner with government, whether state, local government or national, to begin to talk to people, it's down to our value systems, it's down to our culture, it's down to people understanding. Someone gave an example and it's typical. You know you cannot make it today and you say, I'll see you in 10 minutes and think it's okay to say sorry after 1 week. It's a culture we've imbibed. So we need to begin to change those things and then we'll begin to make a big difference. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry, can I just quickly add to, I'm really sorry. I think one of the major areas where we're not focusing on and the areas that have the most significant talent issues is the public service. That is the biggest elephant in the room, and people keep blaming politicians. Politicians cannot do anything without the public servants. I don't want to say collusion or agreement. That is the truth. I've been there for 4 years. And the talent management system in that sector, because if you think about it, why are people really leaving? How many people are jackbuying from Canada, US? Because insecurity, there are no jobs. There are just some big macroeconomic issues that has made living in Nigeria almost unbearable. And who is responsible? It is the public service. A nation cannot grow beyond the quality, the capacity, and the ability that the public service has. So the sooner we shine the light on where the cause is, so we can be talking all this talk in the private sector, but we cannot grow beyond that engine, which is the public service, to drive growth in Nigeria. So for as many people that are here, we're not here by accident as Nigerians. Let us really get up, critical mass, and join. Government cannot do it alone, and we really cannot keep quiet. It is for us to bring back our nation, bring back our people, and do what we need to do to make this country work. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And Bruce, congratulations again. I think I wanted to mention something that I feel we don't often talk about, which is also the ego-led leadership in certain organizations a lot of the time. And I bring this up because I think a lot of young people, sometimes, as much as they mention mental health and all of these sorts of things, I think their structure and system is also very productivity based. And I'm wondering oftentimes, what is the resistance for a lot of organizations to kind of move towards a productivity-based type of system in working? I've worked for the last 9 years as a storytelling consultant and as a freelance creative as well. I work with different countries. I can be working on 3-4 projects at the same time. And because I know that my living is based on my day rates, you have to be on point, on time, and produce, right? And I'm working with these clients like for 5 years straight as well. And I also hire a lot of young people to work on projects. And you find that, and I personally find that you really have to kind of be detailed in the sense of what they're producing and what you need. Because I know you did mention lifestyle. They consider it quality of life. They're not thinking about it as lifestyle. They're thinking about it as quality of life. So they're calculating every single thing so that they can actually produce and be on time with all of those things. So I know that this is not applicable to all industries, but I'm also wondering what is the resistance to getting certain roles to really be more productivity focused than just, essentially.
So I saw Prof nodding her head, so maybe you want to respond to that, and then we'll take a final comment. Thank you.
Okay, I think I work in the most difficult industry, academia. So managing professors, it is not easy. I've come out of 3 days in Abuja managing professors. And you realize that I was sort of observing, and there are different dynamics, right? There are professors who are in public universities, Nigerian professors in private universities, and Nigerian professors from diaspora. And some of the traits we found, first of all, teamwork and collaboration don't exist. Egos abound. My way or no way. No way of giving constructive feedback. So that, just throwing tantrums. I don't like this. So I'm like, okay, what don't you like? Provide alternatives. I just don't like it. So you realize that it's the culture. So how do we acculturize our systems again? Because that's where students are learning. So when students come out, they're probably just saying, you know what, how do I just get rid of this man or get this man out of my life? Another area we're not creating enough talent in is academia. Because we're licensing private universities, but are we creating talent to teach in those private universities? So what you find is that we're recirculating the same people from Unilag to Babcock to Covenant to this, and the professors are gigas. And that's the whole fight with IPIS. Yeah. IPIS says you can only work in one university. But they can be working in 3. So we need to understand better. So the bottom line is, I agree with you. We should look at work outputs rather than just showing up, effort, right? In academia, it's almost like publish or perish. And so those kinds of mindsets, but you know that some people are happy to perish. Yeah, and those are the behavioral parts. So you have to understand what makes people tick and really have that level of engagement. But when you have an organization of 5,000 people, it is not HR's job. And that's why Habiba and Bruce's book is actually a workbook for every manager. It's a tool that every manager needs to read, because managing people is your job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll take a final comment from Mr. Fola Adeola.
Good afternoon. This is what we probably should have done at the beginning. Congratulations, Habiba and Bruce. Congratulations, panel. Mine is to welcome you to the Metropolitan Club. I don't want to miss the opportunity. Habiba, thank you for exposing our club. So many of you believe that it's an old person's club. I mean, if you can call me an old person, I'm a young man belonging to the mental health generation. Thank you. On Habiba and Bruce, I'm not envious of authors. Many of us just speak. It's so much easier. But for people who are able to commit it to writing, so that people like Professor David West can criticize and write all sorts of things, how bad they are, those are the brave ones. Bravery, and thanks for your contribution to your field. I am just going to implore you and your co-author or anybody that is interested to take this a little bit, to do a research of the phylum or the segment the people that you are talking about fall into. There are many different types of people. When a young man or a young woman has been raised on their duty to take care of their parents, when they've been raised on the basis of their parents letting them know that they represent their only investment. They don't have any investment in other places. If they have been observing their parents nurture their own parents, who happen to be these grandparents, and they are involved in the process, it is doubtful that the rebellion will come. So Habiba said, people will leave work and go and stay at home and probably grow what they will feed. That alone has defined the kind of home they live. They still have. If they had left a home where mom and dad and 5 or 6 or 7 children stay in one room, right, and share common facilities like bathrooms and toilets, I don't find them resigning anyhow, because the alternative is hunger. Not just hunger of the persona, but hunger of a larger family. What do you tell the woman who sold her clothes, sold the little jewelry that she had, to be able to pay your school fees through school, to be able to pay your transport allowance, that you don't have any job anymore? You don't have. How many of them can bring out a laptop, okay, even after graduating from university? A number is legion that can't do it. And they trump the number of people, right, like we know, who can do it. And in that case, perhaps in the next edition of the book, we can extend it to parenting. And what leeway have we allowed people? How have we tried to mold them? What examples have we tried to show them? And so on and so forth. Gbenga has spoken well, but we also both grew up in this same environment, about the same time. The devotion he paid to, before he even became an entrepreneur in his profession, those who ran them around, those they wanted to be like, right? And so on and so forth. Do we still have them to present? And that is what I think that we can. Yes. Having said that, I believe that we need to mind the ones that we have sent abroad before they land what their roles will be in life. Those who can come home and they don't need money in their pocket. Everybody needs money in their pocket. But when we say they don't need money in their pocket, they are still able to look at mommy with a smile on Habiba's face and empathy. Okay, take. But go and get another job. Oh. Okay, take. But go and get another job. We still know people who can be told that their work is rubbish. And their interpretation is that, you know what, I don't want that said of me the next time. The number is not tiny, as we are being led to believe. We need to know the new world, but we need to also take what is useful in the old world that the new world can benefit from. as a member of Metropolitan Club, I just have to say this, to defend that array of ages that you can find on the wall. There's usefulness in old school. We are not expiring yet. We are not leaving the space. And we are not going to convert to mental health issue. Because when we were slapped, when we were young, we didn't run mad. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adeola. And thank you very much, everyone, for your comments, your feedback, and your questions. We're going to move very swiftly into the book presentation. Again, we present to you the book Breaking the Cycle, Talent Management in the New Normal, Strategies to Tackle the Great Resignation, Quitting and Japa Syndrome.
Thank you to all of you for being here. This book is about solving a problem we have as employers and hopefully creating a good working environment for employees. So we hope that the book has helped all of you. Wana talked about some resistance, and my senior, Mr. Fola Adeola, displayed that exact resistance just there. So what they don't understand is that they might not have a garden to go to, but they will go online and they can review books and earn dollars. So they have all these ways that they can earn an income even if they don't have a job. So please read the book, learn about the new normal, so that once you know what the new normal is, you will know what to do to engage your employees on that new basis, the ones you want to keep, right? And of course, talent management in the new normal, we want to make sure that we are generating enough of a pipeline of talent to develop our nation and our companies profitably.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I just want to say thank you to the Metropolitan Club and for Habiba